What if the final test was just to let everything go? Working with that is different within the different time spans you have worked with that. And since you have not worked with that, different casual to non casual to subtle to non subtle frustrations could occur within subtle phenomena based on how you're barely inviting that new notion of something as a methodology of life could do for you in your life, meaning like a a psychological action activity that connects to, I guess, like, subtle spiritual bodies, etc., etc., etc. We all know those, like, different terms and frameworks, but just a principal moral to like practice letting everything go. But what you must consider is that everyone's infinitely different, infinitely like at their own subjective stage to objective stage, at infinitely their own objective stage to like ever subjectivity to like subtle truth. And that's the thing, like the light and the dark, they're always here, and we're moving through the light and the dark within the day and the night. And and aside from that layer just being captured, everything else is being captured, and we're working with that to create a whole new kind of like a spiritual body, because the spiritual body is the ultimate animator of the physical material body. And if that is so, and we have our like, and we're looking at it as backwards, as if like, this lesser fragmented piece creates the more bigger picture whole. That's like saying, does a particle of sand like animate the whole beach? Well, I guess it could be like yes and no, depending on like what correspondences that sand has. And we are that particle of sand, and God is the beach. So we're all, that's like, we're likened unto like the particles of sand in the beach, because that's how infinite and innumerable like we're already saying this universe is. But aside from just saying that the universe is that innumerable, there's a miracle that we have been contained and constructed within different angles of consciousness, within different angles of intelligence, within different angles of like moldabilities of material elements and natures, to like create this surface level reality called something of a fixed to non-fixed Maya, a fixed to non-fixed illusion, a fixed to non-fixed dream that you're in, Mr. Anderson. So, Mr. Anderson, we're being pulled to like be Zen and then do our work, because there's some type of work to be done aside from all of it, aside even from all the astrology, because eventually, like in different, eventually the astrology gets transmuted at some times in your life too. But then, like, I guess it could be apparent because that's the weather of this level, this reality. But if we're going beyond this reality, then it will be less apparent, So like, because obviously that topic has already kind of breezed through, of like, like how astrology could be transformed and whatnot. Because I get that part too, and like to bring that part into like, how they're using it, because they're using it, everyone's using it differently, like, government, they're using it differently, and they're coming from a different aspect of it, because the astrology is pointing to a whole different, like, it's a as below to a different as above, and it's pointing to a whole different like spectrum of constellations, you know a whole new like radius of constellations, within like a whole different, axis on a grander moon. Because if this moon is riding on some sort of axis of the different eclipticals, depending on what ecliptical of what celestial body you're talking about, then upon those eclipticals and upon other, axes that are being created from, whatever's actually being ultimately orbited around, and what's ultimately being orbited around perhaps is somehow the galactic sun. And within that galactic sun, all the other different suns are coming out to like create, to be in polarization with some type of Earth spaceship and some type of Venus spaceship and some type of Saturn spaceship. And Saturn being like this crazy, like, standard in behind the scenes like virtual reality that already is, you know, like it already is its own thing, that like we're behind in, like we're caught up in a dream for a reason, because we're partaking into like this Maya realm that has different aspects of it, and those different aspects are like, you know, like this digital reality, this digitaria, and then this like, you know, kind of like this kind of like culty kind of like background underground society, you know, kind of like, you know, underground kind of like, you know, gov Democrates Republicas, and within that, you know, them having like, you know, their own like narratives of polarities in general, as everything does in nature, you know. But that's, it's like like aside from that, like I'm just looking at the standardality of it, you know. But like, because obviously within the purity of your soul going through the top down whatever, then the standardality could get like really polarized and really, it could be like so unique and diverse for you, because obviously like God has to be aware of all this like suffering shit on the, like this material realm, because in the end, like we're doing a hard pivot to the material realm, because even though the material realm has its own heights and its own falls, that's still not necessarily the pure spiritual realm, most respectively. And the pure spiritual realm would have to be like total like you know, being granted by God or whatever to like, you know, pivot out of that realm, and however it could like just ensnare you on the general level. So that's the master of the mature guru sharing that with everybody, and actually like seeing that happen on a collective level like it ain't nothing. Because like, you know, like all the like the Sadashiva tribes, respect to all of them, you know, they know this notion of like going beyond that, which is, you know, that which could bind you in the material reality of Maya. So so it's an eventuality and it's a probability, and it's not going to happen for everybody, because not everyone's going to know that or work with that. Because what is God's ultimate test for us? Like, can we trust him or can we have faith for him? That's probably like a yin one. But maybe it's like, can we let everything go somehow? Because even all the stories that we're getting like empathically inserted into us, that's not necessarily ours. Like even all these like, you know, journey stories too, even if you go on these like sacred journeys, like that story still has to be like, you know, resolved or something. The next thing must proceed, the next thing must move on, respectively, because there's so much more going on with like God's real shit aside from this whole material reality. I'm not demonizing the material world at all. I'm just saying there's like a whole different distinction from that which we're participating in, and that from which we originally came from, and that which we originally came from on a subtle nuanced level. We're cut off from that, we're compressed from that, because we're not using that, you know, latent dormant talent within our human body, within this material realm, but it's still here. It's still being siphoned on loose on casual neutral levels, you know. So I just want to say, if you're struggling with any story, just like, it's not yours, you know. It's like, it doesn't have to, but like if it is a part of your family, then it's case by case, so it could be yours. But like, you know, like just to let everything go, you know, but like understanding what roles we're playing within this life, because you always got another life. Have the best life ever.